Dinarland from Breitling and Dinar updates. From Breitling. Is it liberating Mosul going to move anything forward for the Iraqi dinar? No. The Iraq dinar is on a schedule the way it is. The Iraqi dinar is based on oil prices. So what is it they're looking at? How long does oil prices have to be in a certain range, or it going up or is it going down? I don't have those answers. Nobody does. I don't even know anyone who's able to give an educated guess at it. What they are looking at is the trend. They are not afraid if the price of oil goes down. What they are afraid of, and all countries are afraid of, is that it goes up and down and it's very volatile. You guys don't need to worry about Mosul and if they are going to take it over, and if that's the key for it going to change the value of the Iraqi dinar. They are not looking at that. They could sell oil in the middle of a war. It's obvious they can do that. So it's not going to change oil sales. From Dinar Updates chat room. News excerpts and highlights. Jeff USA says, Iraqi forces are about to fully liberate Mosul city from ISIS terrorists, a security source told the Baghdad Post on Monday. Intensive clashes have been going on between Iraqi federal police forces and ISIS terrorists in Al-Rafai district in northwestern Mosul, the source added. ISIS terrorists set fire to cars, electricity generators, and drainage system to impede Iraqi forces from advancing into the city. On February 19, US-backed Iraqi army launched wide-scale military operation to eradicate ISIS terrorists from Mosul city, the last major stronghold for the terrorist group. Analysts estimate little number of ISIS terrorists still exist in Mosul and they desperately defend the city. Pablo says. Treasury vaults prices have gone up. Used to be around $980 per million, now they are charging $1,000 per million. Reynolds C2 says, I'm sure that's just an excuse to make an extra buck. Pablo. I wouldn't pay any mind to that. Subgirl says. Trade Bank of Iraq announces near the opening of its branch in Ramadai. Economy News Baghdad, announced Trade Bank of Iraq, TBI, on Monday, closed the opening of the bank branch in the city of Ramadai after reconstruction. The bank said in a statement, Economy News received a copy of it. He will be reopening of the help of God the Iraqi Trade Bank branch, TBI, in the city of Ramadai to contribute to the reconstruction of the liberated areas after the destruction caused by terrorist gangs Daesh. He added that, reliberated areas and the responsibility of all of our belief that we return to our people in Ramadai to serve them. Subgirl says, Financial Times, reform of the political system requires the settlement of disputes between the components of Iraq. American leadership of the International Coalition Against Iraq Daesh brought it to the brink of defeat. Daesh group which seized control of a third of the country's territory. And it will soon be expelled Daesh from Mosul. And thanks to the Iraqi security forces and Kurdish Peshmerga forces and popular mobilization efforts. It deserves Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi confidence to oversight of the campaign. On the other hand, it has a political system that was inaugurated after the overthrow of Saddam Hussein's regime has failed. Apart from liberal democracy, which has long wished for many, Iraq's semi-kleptocracy, the rule of thieves, full division partisan, ethnic, and sectarian, so must the main components in Iraq, Sunnis and Shiites, to participate in a meaningful dialogue, and this must begin negotiations between the federal government and the Kurdistan regional government and the parties to decide whether they want to live together, and be a place of decision. Baghdad, not Ankara, or Tehran or Washington. Most of the Kurds aspire to independence, but if he got the separation must be in accordance with the plan or divided. Similar to the Velvet Divorce between the Czechs and Slovaks, not like North Cyprus or South Sudan, negotiated with Baghdad. And perhaps touch the Kurdish leadership is also the advantages of staying as part of a new Iraq confederate with the continued existence of a sovereign Kurdistan region contributes to a common economic and security structure. At the same time, the Kurdish leadership to work seriously to resolve the political and economic crisis and governance crisis afflicting the region. As well as on the Arab components, Sunnis and Shiites, to decide on its political relationship in the future. Subgirl says, Parliamentary finance, Iraq is able to pay its debts economy since May 22, 2017 at 15:26, Baghdad time, Baghdad Mawazin News Baghdad, Reuters. Iraq's Parliamentary Finance Committee confirmed on Monday that Iraq was able to pay the debts owed by it, pointing out to the high classification of Iraq by international agencies. A member of the committee, Jabbar al-Abadi, in a statement, received Mawazin News, a copy of it, that Iraq is able to pay the debts owed by the fulfillment of its obligations and evidence of this high credit classification of Iraq according to international agencies, noting that the majority of Iraq and the amount borrowed by this little government, as well as that the loans taken not only for the purpose of operational projects, but were investment to be able to pay the debt. Abadi pointed out that the mechanism followed by the government was clear, that these amounts for investment projects to meet the government's obligations, pointing out that the debt was a few benefits and comfortable and a good proportion of institutions and international banks to support the budget. He explained that some try to link the public debt to Iraq's current government and current circumstances, but the public debt of the country is estimated at $111 billion and foreign debt reached until 2014, nearly $56 billion. After that date, Iraq borrowed only $12 billion and borrowed externally, noting that the amount of $56 billion, some of them before 2003, and amounted to about $41 billion, which is outside the Paris Club and was not subject to the settlement that took place in the club, and that most of the countries that have been borrowed from him has not claimed until now. Abadi said, according to the statement, that the remaining debt of up to $40 billion or a little less, and internal debt was up to 50% before 2014, noting that the amount achieved from 2014 to 2016 came to pay the salaries of self-financing companies losing. Subgirl says, Eye of Iraq, publishes the final statement of the Islamic Summit of Arab American May 21, 2017 follow-up. The final statement of U.S. Arab Summit Islamic held in Riyadh on Sunday to build a close partnership between the countries to confront extremism and terrorism, and welcomed the provision of 34,000 troops as a standby force to support operations against terrorism in Iraq and Syria. According to the final statement of the summit, emphasis on building a close partnership between the participating countries to counter extremism and terrorism, and to confirm the commitment of the leaders of their countries firmly fight against terrorism in all its forms. Also, it included an agreement between participating to address the intellectual roots of terrorism and drying the sources of funding, and to commend the exchange of information on the movements of foreign fighters and terrorist organizations. States welcomed the leaders, according to the final statement, to establish a global center based in Riyadh to counter extremist ideology. The closing statement, to pay tribute to the exchange of information on the movements of foreign fighters and terrorist organizations, as well as stressing the importance of progress towards a political settlement of conflicts. The statement also included, welcome the provision of 34,000 troops as a standby force to support operations against terrorism in Iraq and Syria. Concluded, on Sunday evening, the Arab American Islamic Summit in the Saudi capital Riyadh. The summit kicked off, Sunday afternoon, in the presence of more than 50 countries, including the President of the Republic, Fuad Maysam, and U.S. President Donald Trump.